All right. So now against Bronstein.
Against Bronstein, we have the King's Gambit, which is very nice and quite rare. Nowadays, almost no King's Gambit because it's very risky, and with the computer, it's impossible to play like this. Because everything is analyzed. At home.
Yeah.
And this is very unclear what happens in that game because both players, I mean Bronstein and Spassky, were well known. They love to play King's Gambit for white. I mean Bronstein played himself also, from time to time.
They were two specialists.
Two specialists. And therefore the game is very important theoretically, and it's very surprising that Bronstein played quite badly the whole game because he knew very well for white and for black, Especially because Bronstein in that time was one of the contenders for the world championship, I mean, he played a match against Botvinnik, which finished 12-12. And because of this, Botvinnik was keeping his title, But before that, 2-3 rounds before the end, it was almost clear that Bronstein could be winning, the match. And very complicated until the end, and Botvinnik was able to save somehow the match.
But here is also a gambit.
This is only theory, Yeah.
To give up
D5,
back.
D5 is the counter gambit. I mean, black gives immediately back the pawn to have some activity, And we'll explain how it's possible and so on. First of all, D5 is possible the second move also against F4, E4, E5, F4, D5. The second move. This is the counter gambit Falkbeer, which is considered very complicated even now, in nowadays, which is playable, of course. This line played by Bronstein is a little bit different, but also very good. It's playable for black. Black gives back the pawn immediately to come out with his pieces. You see, bishop d6 quickly, knight e7 quickly, and castle, Castle very quickly.
So no risk.
To have a safe king like this. So, okay, until now, theory, Okay, d4, castle, and bishop d3. All right, so what did he play? Knight d7. He castle now. And here, the first moment, a little bit strange. We'll see why during the game. h6. It wasn't necessary to play h6. Black had two possibilities, both of them quite good, The first was, for instance, knight g6, yeah?
Okay.
Knight g6. And now after knight g6, yeah. And after knight e4, white must do something very quickly,
Knight e4?
Knight e4, yeah. And now knight f6, simply. Or, knight f6. Now he must take, for instance, in d6. Now, if he takes in f6, is nothing for white, So only there, he can take with the queen. And the next move after c4, is bishop g4. Very complicated and probably more or less even the game. Probably, There's no risk at all for black here. So the second possibility was to play instead with the knight in d7. No, here. The bishop d3, knight d7, castle. Knight d7, castle. Instead of h6, the second possibility was knight f6. Knight f6 again. Okay, more or less all right. And complicated, but nothing happens immediately, I mean,
So you mean
h6 was not necessary and bad, you see. You'll see why.
Lost a tempo.
Yeah. No, he doesn't lose a tempo. I mean, he wanted to be sure that white doesn't come immediately with the knight in g5.
Yeah.
But here in that position is not really a threat because white doesn't threat too much after knight g5. He can't give mate or something, So h6 is more or less, question mark, you see, like this. Okay, so starting from here is very interesting because Spassky, of course, played very quickly knight e4. I mean, he took a chance now. So and now knight d5, c4, excellent move, c4. And knight e3, that was the idea for black, Now, if you take he took in e3, of course, He took, and now if you take in d6, white is a little bit better, maybe taking back the pawn from e3 later on, after knight d3, And the position is very complicated, but white can play better, this is the problem. He doesn't take in d6, and he continues to attack, you see. And now we see the difference. Why was not so good to play h6?
Yes.
Because of that move h6, white has very strong attacking chances in this position. Okay, now bishop e7. Now Spassky found a very nice possibility, which is not so difficult to find, of course. Bishop c2. I mean, he wants to put the queen in d3, open the diagonal, and if he moves the knight, it's almost finished, I mean, that is the problem. So bishop c2. Now again, he could play better probably. Instead of rook e8, which is, not really the best. Instead of rook e8, the last possibility probably here to have a normal position was to play knight f6. Well, if he plays knight f6, here, knight f6, what can take in f6 with check, for instance, now? He takes queen d3 and g6, okay. g6 takes in e3, bishop g7 or even king g7, and it's okay. I mean, the position is more or less normal, Nothing happens quickly. Maybe white is little better, but not much, Yeah. Okay, so instead, Bronstein played very risky, and here the position is very dangerous already, So queen d3, and now the last mistake, we'll see. Now probably he was a little bit upset to see what happens, and he wanted to give the pawn back, winning a very good tempo, I mean, if now you take in e2, he has time to play knight f6 very quickly, and the position again is more or less okay for black, But now, unfortunately, white can play, some very beautiful move, knight d6, giving the rook, but now the attack is terrible, And this position is probably already lost for black, you see. And very beautiful. Not complicated, but very beautiful. You have only to calculate very well to see what happens, you see. Because now he can sacrifice all the time somewhere, you see. And now after knight f8, because he threatens mate, you see. Now g6 is not possible anymore because after knight takes f7, he can resign. Everything comes with tempo, it's too much. So he played knight f8 now. Knight f8. And now look what happened. He gives the rook. Again, of course he could play here something else, but this is all right. Knight takes f7. Now what can he do? He took, rook takes, and the attack continues. Black is rook up here, the rook from a8, but the rook from a8 doesn't play, and now here all the white pieces are attacking, so the position is destroyed for black, So the rest of the game is very beautiful until the end, not too complicated, but very beautiful, So we'll see how white wins a completely winning position,
Yeah.
So bishop f5 is necessary to give back because at least you can move the queen afterwards. But now white plays, you see, and it's easy just to move the queen and the attack continues, One move is enough to win, you see. An extra move wins in all these kind of positions until then. So, all right, and now bishop f6. And after bishop f6, knight e5, of course, no? Now what to do? Queen e7. And now look what happens. Bishop b3, forced. Well, here black could resign already, So he took in e5. Now the position is completely open, So has to move only king h7, and after queen e4 check, he resigned. Yeah. Now, if he moves back to h8, well, everything wins. But the easiest way to win is rook takes f8, check, and knight g6 check. And everything was check.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah.
Well. And if he puts the pawn?
Well, rook f7 check wins,
Yeah.
No, terrible position. But, okay, I mean, everybody would win. But it's very beautiful to see how you can win such kind of position.
Yeah.
Well,
was one tempo.
For one tempo, everything happened because of h6. Well, afterwards also some small mistakes, but H6 probably was the extra tempo for white. I mean, giving him very good chances to attack.
Yeah.
So therefore, I tell you, it's very surprising that Bronstein played like this, because he knew very well both sides. I mean, for white and for black, he played very
For
well.
this opening,
King's Gambit, and from time to time, if you have to defend, you have to know how.
yeah.
When you are a world-class player like him. So okay, it happens. It can happen. Even the best players, have their mistakes somehow from time to time.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
You're welcome.